Imagine a leader whose private world is guarded by billion-dollar palaces, $300 million yachts, armored convoys and secretive security forces numbering in the tens of thousands. That leader is Vladimir Putin, and the scale of his protection is so staggering it even left Donald Trump astonished. Stay until the end, when we uncover the $1 billion Black Sea fortress and the hidden machinery that makes Putin untouchable on the world stage. The Trump connection and psychological diplomacy. When two of the world's most polarizing figures, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, appeared together on the global stage, it wasn't just diplomacy, it was theater. Putin understood the one thing that could unlock Trump's admiration, the art of psychological flattery. While other world leaders confronted Trump with policy and criticism, Putin used carefully chosen words, gestures, and symbolism to appeal directly to Trump's pride. The results were undeniable. Trump openly expressed a level of respect for Putin that he rarely extended to anyone else. The dynamic was most visible during high-profile encounters, from the Helsinki meeting in 2018 to the much-discussed Alaska summit in 2025. There, Trump marveled not just at Putin's composure, but also at the visible wealth of power surrounding him. Armored convoys with vehicles valued at over $1 million each, fleets of private aircraft, and whispers of palaces worth $1 billion projected an image of a man protected by both fortune and force. For Trump, who built his brand around towers of glass and gold, Putin's projection of untouchable control struck a chord. Behind closed doors, Putin reinforced this perception with subtle dominance plays, arriving last to meetings, controlling seating arrangements, and showcasing opulent gifts that highlighted Russia's deep coffers. Every calculated move emphasized that Putin was not just another head of state, he was the architect of his own empire. Trump's deference, unusual for a US president, was proof of how effectively Putin had flipped the script. But the connection wasn't just about ego, it was a demonstration of psychological warfare in diplomacy. Putin showed that by understanding his counterpart's vulnerabilities, he could elevate Russia's global image without firing a single shot. He transformed meetings into showcases of personal influence, using wealth and spectacle as silent but powerful tools of negotiation. This relationship didn't make Trump a puppet, it made him a witness to the staggering scale of Putin's security empire, an empire valued at $10 billion that left even a billionaire businessman visibly impressed. So here's the question for you. Do you think Trump's admiration was genuine respect, or was it the result of Putin's carefully engineered psychological strategy? Comment power play if you believe it was all part of the game. Russiagate, and the art of turning scandal into strength. In 2016, the term Russiagate exploded across headlines in the United States. It referred to widespread claims that Russia had tried to influence the US presidential election through hacking, leaked emails, and online campaigns. American lawmakers launched hearings, intelligence agencies pointed fingers, and the media spent years debating the extent of Russia's involvement. For many in Washington, it was seen as a political scandal capable of damaging the White House. But in Moscow, the story was told very differently. Russian state television presented Russiagate as proof that the Kremlin had risen to become a global player once again. While American politicians accused and argued, Putin was shown calmly leading cabinet meetings under crystal chandeliers worth over $80,000 each, or greeting foreign dignitaries in marble-clad palaces valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The message to Russian viewers was unmistakable. The West was in chaos, while Putin stood as the symbol of stability and strength. Putin also understood how to use the scandal as a tool of leverage abroad. Even if Russia's role was never conclusively proven, the perception alone was powerful. Leaders in Europe began to see Russia not just as an energy supplier, but as a state capable of using information and technology to sway democracies. Western divisions over the scandal gave Putin opportunities to present himself as a master strategist, someone who could destabilize rivals without deploying tanks or missiles. At home, the effect was even greater. Russiagate allowed Putin to reinforce his image as a cunning operator capable of outmaneuvering the most powerful nation on Earth. The more Washington obsessed over investigations, the more Russian media framed it as evidence that Putin had outsmarted the West. Far from weakening him, the scandal made him look untouchable. What was intended as a scandal became a showcase of power. By flipping the narrative, Putin transformed accusations into affirmation. Russiagate was no longer about interference, it was about influence. And for Putin, influence was the ultimate currency, one that no sanction, no headline, and no rival could easily take away. Security forces and domestic control. Behind Vladimir Putin's global image of power lies a vast domestic machine, financed by billions of dollars, designed to ensure no challenge inside Russia ever gains momentum. At the core are elite security units, special brigades within the Federal Protective Service and the FSB that answer directly to him. These forces are not just ceremonial, they are equipped with armored vehicles priced at over $1 million each, advanced surveillance technology rivaling Western intelligence agencies, and sprawling compounds across Moscow that function as both training grounds and command centers. Funding for these units does not appear openly in the Russian state budget. Instead, it flows through opaque networks of state-owned enterprises and loyal oligarchs. Investigative reports suggest that as much as $2 billion annually is funneled into maintaining these forces, from paying salaries to importing advanced gear. Imported drones, secure communication devices, and even luxury armored limousines, such as Mercedes Maybach models exceeding $500,000, are integrated into their operations. The message is clear: no expense is spared when it comes to protecting the regime. Control extends far beyond bodyguards. State television, tightly scripted and broadcast from studios outfitted with equipment worth tens of millions, ensures that Putin's narrative dominates the airwaves. When opposition figures like Alexei Navalny attempted to mobilize, the machinery responded with precision. Undercover agents infiltrated rallies, financial audits froze accounts, and media blackouts erased their presence from the national conversation. Each action was coordinated, showing how wealth underwrites not just physical protection, but also information dominance. Ordinary Russians see the results every day. Protests rarely last more than a few hours before being surrounded by security troops, often arriving in armored personnel carriers priced above $2 million each. Courtrooms built with marble interiors and guarded by officers in uniforms costing thousands per set, project authority while simultaneously silencing dissent. Even social media platforms are monitored by cyber units, estimated to employ over 1,000 specialists, making digital resistance as risky as street demonstrations. This fusion of wealth and control has created an environment where political opposition cannot survive long enough to threaten the system. The billions funneled into domestic security do more than protect Putin's person. They preserve the illusion of absolute stability, ensuring that every rival is neutralized before they can rise. The mafia-style system of wealth extraction. Vladimir Putin's immense fortune is not openly declared, nor does it appear on any official register. Instead, it flows through a system that resembles organized racketeering, where loyalty is rewarded with protection and disobedience can mean ruin. At the core of this arrangement are Russia's billionaires, many of whom rose from the privatization chaos of the 1990s. Once in power, Putin made it clear they could keep their fortunes, but only if they paid tribute. This tribute is not a formal tax, but a stream of assets, favors, and financial contributions to Kremlin-approved projects. An oligarch controlling an oil company, for example, might transfer a luxury villa worth $25 million in Sardinia to a Putin ally. Another might finance a state-run mega-project, such as a pipeline, while quietly handing over a $50 million yacht for personal use. These transfers rarely carry Putin's name, but through layers of proxies and offshore accounts, the assets remain firmly under his influence. The mechanics of this wealth extraction are highly sophisticated. Investigations like the Pandora Papers revealed networks of shell companies in Cyprus, Panama, and the British Virgin Islands. Friends from Putin's inner circle, including longtime associates, are listed as beneficial owners of companies that hold billions in cash and property. The result is plausible deniability. On paper, Putin owns nothing, yet in reality he controls a shadow empire estimated at over $100 billion. This system thrives on fear and dependence. Oligarchs who comply enjoy lavish lifestyles, complete with Gulfstream jets worth $65 million and penthouses in London priced above $30 million. Those who defy the system often see their companies dismantled by tax police, their assets seized, or worse, their freedom threatened. The implicit message is clear. Wealth in Russia exists at the pleasure of the Kremlin. For ordinary Russians, This structure remains invisible, but for the global elite, it is an open secret that Putin does not need to sign ownership papers to be one of the richest men alive. His fortune lives in the hands of others, making it nearly impossible to target through sanctions. Do you think this hidden system of tribute makes Putin untouchable or dangerously dependent on his billionaire network? Comment Shadow Empire if you believe this system is the real source of his power. Yachts, palaces, and the Black Sea Fortress. Among the most visible symbols of Vladimir Putin's hidden wealth are the properties and vessels that rival those of royalty. Perhaps the most famous is the sprawling Black Sea Fortress, often referred to as the Palace. Reports estimate its value at around $1 billion, making it one of the most expensive private residences in the world. Stretching across more than 190,000 square feet, it is equipped with features that read more like a luxury resort than a home. Underground ice rinks, a private theater, a spa complex, and a secret tunnel leading directly to the shoreline. Its interiors are said to be decorated with Italian marble, gold-plated fixtures, and bespoke furniture crafted by luxury European artisans. Beyond the fortress, Putin's reach extends to the seas. Several yachts, none of which are officially registered under his name, have been traced back to individuals in his inner circle. The most notable vessels are mega yachts valued between $200 million and $400 million each, outfitted with helipads, swimming pools, and even onboard cinemas. Some carry designs from leading German shipyards such as Blumplus Voss, and interiors inspired by brands like Cartier and Versace, highlighting a taste for global luxury. These floating palaces symbolize not only wealth, but mobility. Safe havens that can relocate at a moment's notice. The ownership structures are deliberately opaque. Each property and yacht is held through layers of offshore companies and trusted allies, making it difficult for investigators to directly tie the assets to Putin. Yet the consistent use of close associates as figureheads reveals a pattern. The wealth may not appear in his name, but the control remains absolute. Together, the Black Sea Fortress and the fleet of mega yachts embody a particular kind of power. They are not just personal luxuries, they are statements of invincibility. While ordinary Russians see modest portrayals of their president on television, the reality is a world shielded by billion-dollar estates and guarded fleets. These assets are designed to endure scrutiny, survive sanctions, and project an image of permanence. Palaces and yachts that serve as floating and fortified monuments to one man's untouchable status. Offshore networks and hidden billions. While Putin's name rarely appears on property deeds or bank accounts, his fortune flows through an intricate offshore web that stretches across continents. Investigative leaks, such as the Panama Papers and Pandora Papers, have pointed to an elaborate system of shell companies registered in jurisdictions like Cyprus, Panama, and the British Virgin Islands. These entities, often run by longtime associates, obscure true ownership while safeguarding billions of dollars in assets. Key figures in this network include Yuri Kovalchuk and Gennady Timchenko, trusted allies who act as custodians of Putin's hidden wealth. Through companies registered under their names, entire portfolios of luxury properties, investment accounts, and commercial stakes are managed discreetly. For example, documents have linked associates to lavish apartments in London valued at over $30 million each, and stakes in energy firms worth billions. These holdings provide the dual advantage of plausible deniability and strategic access to Western markets. Offshore companies are not just holding vehicles, they are gateways to a lifestyle shielded from sanctions. Luxury assets, from Gulfstream G650 private jets costing $65 million to sprawling villas in Switzerland valued at $50 million, have been tied to this financial architecture. Even art collections, including works by masters like Picasso and Fabergé eggs worth millions, have reportedly been purchased through these networks. Each item reflects not just taste, but also the utility of placing wealth in movable, discrete forms. The complexity of the web is staggering. A single yacht, valued at $250 million, might be owned on paper by a company in the Cayman Islands, leased to another in Luxembourg, and managed by a third based in Monaco. The result is a chain of ownership so convoluted that unraveling it requires years of forensic investigation. For Putin, this opacity is the ultimate defense. By never appearing as the official owner, he remains legally insulated. This offshore labyrinth highlights a critical element of modern power: control without fingerprints. While ordinary Russians see modest images of their leader, the reality is billions hidden behind layers of secrecy, guarded by loyal allies and fortified by global finance. In this system, wealth is not about possession, it is about influence, invisibility, and endurance. Cyber warfare and information domination. If armored convoys and billion-dollar palaces showcase Putin's visible power, his invisible power is exercised through digital battlefields. Over the past 2 decades, Russia has built one of the world's most sophisticated cyber operations, with units like Bureau 121 operating as a silent army. Their mission is not to fight wars with tanks or missiles, but to infiltrate networks, manipulate narratives, and control information flows across borders. The infrastructure supporting this digital empire is as formidable as Russia's physical defenses. Entire complexes on the outskirts of Moscow house thousands of operatives, equipped with advanced servers costing tens of millions of dollars and workstations running on high-end systems. These facilities, often disguised as research institutes or IT companies, function as command centers for global campaigns. From here, coordinated efforts can flood social media with carefully crafted narratives, influence elections abroad, or destabilize opposition movements at home. Financing these operations requires vast resources, and Putin's hidden wealth ensures they are never underfunded. Reports suggest that cyber divisions receive upwards of $300 million annually, a fraction of his estimated billions, yet enough to rival the budgets of smaller nations' intelligence agencies. With this funding, operatives acquire cutting-edge equipment, encrypted communications gear, and even high-performance luxury vehicles like BMW 7 Series sedans priced at $120,000 to maintain a facade of normalcy while working undercover. What makes this network so effective is its dual function. Externally, it can influence global politics, from spreading divisive stories in Europe to amplifying discontent in the United States. Internally, it monitors Russian citizens, ensuring that dissenting voices on platforms like Telegram or YouTube are quickly silenced or drowned out by waves of counter-messaging. The result is a society where the state dominates not only the streets with armed guards, but also the digital spaces people inhabit daily. The sophistication of these tactics has redefined modern power. Unlike traditional armies, which are visible and measurable, cyber forces operate in shadows, leaving their targets uncertain about the scale of the threat. For Putin, this uncertainty is strategic. It creates the perception of omnipresence. Whether online or offline, resistance feels futile. By blending wealth, technology, and secrecy, he has weaponized information itself, turning cyberspace into another fortress that secures his untouchable position. A new model of 21st century power. Vladimir Putin has pioneered a model of power unlike anything seen before in the 21st century. It is not built solely on military strength or state bureaucracy, but on 3 interlocking pillars: opaque wealth, technological dominance, and psychological strategy. Together, these elements form a fortress more difficult to penetrate than any palace or armored convoy. First is the wealth hidden in plain sight. Estimates suggest his fortune ranges from $40 billion to over $200 billion, scattered across mega yachts, luxury villas, and offshore accounts. A single palace on the Black Sea costs $1 billion, while fleets of private jets, such as Gulfstream G650S valued at $65 million each, symbolize mobility and reach. Yet none of these assets carry Putin's name. They are shielded by shell companies, frontmen, and loyal oligarchs who ensure he benefits from every dollar without ever appearing as the official owner. Second is technological sophistication. Putin's regime has invested heavily in cyber operations, disinformation networks, and surveillance. With annual budgets exceeding $300 million, his digital armies wield tools as powerful as any missile system. They can influence elections abroad, suppress dissent at home, and create narratives that make Russia appear stronger than its economy might suggest. This control of perception is as valuable as control of territory. Third is psychological power. Putin has mastered the art of turning crises into opportunities, scandals into symbols of dominance, and rivals into unwilling admirers. From carefully staged summits with Western leaders to lavish displays of wealth, yachts adorned with interiors by Versace, residences fitted with Cartier chandeliers worth $80,000 each, every detail is designed to project invincibility. It is less about possession and more about the performance of power. By combining these three pillars, Putin has created a leadership model that resists sanctions, evades exposure, and endures beyond traditional politics. It is a template that other authoritarian figures may seek to copy. Wealth without fingerprints, technology without transparency, and dominance without accountability. So here's the question: is this truly a sustainable model of leadership, or just an elaborate illusion waiting to collapse? Comment 21st century power if you believe Putin has rewritten the rules of global dominance. From offshore fortunes and luxury estates to fleets of armored vehicles and cyber armies, Putin's empire of protection shows how wealth and fear can build a shield no rival can penetrate. His security doesn't just defend him, it projects an image of invincibility, shocking even seasoned leaders like Donald Trump. Behind every $65 million jet and every billion-dollar compound lies a system fueled by loyalty and silence. If you found this deep dive eye-serving, hit like, subscribe to Billionaire Story, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next untold secret of global power.